Well, I like to ride my bike to work. And I like to ride because it makes every day a near-death experience. So every day when I turn up to work, I feel like I have cheated death one more time. Every day is a day I should not have had. And we all do dangerous things. For some of us, it might be driving a car. Every year, 300 people die on our roads in New South Wales alone. For some of us, it might be just walking outside into the sun. 1 in 20 Australians will have a melanoma by the age of 85. We all do dangerous things. And there are many fun things that we do that are dangerous. Last year, me and Fanny went surfing and almost got eaten by a shark. I like to go skiing, and I like to watch ski videos. And there are many professional skiers that I watch on these videos who are now dead from skiing. This is Sarah Burke, Shane McConkey, Doug Coombs. They all died skiing, doing things that they love. And whenever this happens, the sports magazines, the surfing magazines, the ski magazines, they all start saying things like, well, it just goes to show. Well, it goes to show what? And then they start to say things like, well, it just goes to show you've got to live every day like it's your last day on earth. Well, how does that work? Well, if I was living today like it was my last day on earth, I would not be here working right now. I'd be doing something else. But life must go on. And so they might try to say things like, it just goes to show you've got to do what you love. Well, how does that work? I'm a father of 3 young boys. Every day I'm cleaning up their food, their vomit, their poo. I don't love doing that. But it's part of what life is. As a father, I have to do it. So what does it go to show? Well, welcome again to our forum series this month. Our topics today, this month, are success, goodness, life, and legacy. Our overarching topic is how to see the extraordinary in life. And each week we look at these topics one by one and see what the Bible, in particular the book of Ecclesiastes, has to say about our topic. And this comes in the form of a 20-minute talk from me now, followed by about 10 minutes of question and answer from you guys. And today our topic is life. How can I have an extraordinary life, a rich, full, fulfilling life, when one day I'm going to have to die anyway? And the Bible sets up the problem this way. Verse 12. No one knows when their hour will come. As fish are caught in a cruel net, or birds are taken in a snare, so people are trapped by evil times that fall unexpectedly upon them. The problem is this, we all have to die. So what is the point of life anyway? How can I have a rich, full, fulfilling life? That's our question. And to answer that, you can see in the outline in front of you, there are 2 halves to today's talk. The first half will look at the problem of death. And the second half will look at, well, how can I have an extraordinary life? What does the Bible have to say? So let's begin with the first half of the talk, the problem of death. And here I suggest 2 things. Number 1, what's the point in being good, rich, or successful if I have to die anyway? When I was young and single, I had a 2-door Honda sports car. Very cool. But I used to live at home with my parents. Very uncool. And my parents used to have this for a car, a Volvo station wagon. Very, very uncool. Like all Asians, they have the Volvo. Now, if you're not an Asian, you're wondering, what do Asians see in the Volvo station wagon? See, if you're not an Asian, you choose a car according to speed, performance, handling. But if you're an Asian parent, you choose safety as your number 1 feature. As an Asian parent thinking, what will keep me safest in a car crash? A big, square, steel box. That will be safe. And that's why Asian parents buy the Volvo station wagon. Now, on Sunday mornings, we used to go to church together, and we'd go to the same church, and we'll leave at the same time, but we'll leave separately in our car. So I'll go in my 2-door sports car, and they'll go in their Volvo station wagon, and I'll take off, bam, 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 just to show them how fast you could go, and they'll take off slowly like Asian parents do, a little bit under the speed limit like Asian parents do, and then we'll hit a red stoplight, and I'll stop, and they'll pull up up next to me. My mum would happily wave to me. I'd have to wave back, hi mum. And the light would go green. I'll take off again. And they would take off slowly in their station wagon. And we'd hit another red light. And my mum would pull up next to me. She'd happily wave. After wave, yes, hi mum. And the light would go green. I'll take off again. And they'd go a little bit under the limit. We'd hit another red light. I would stop. They would stop. They would wave. I would wave. We would get to church exactly the same time. Because traffic lights are the great equaliser. Doesn't matter how fast or slow you go, you get to the same place, the same time anyway. And death is the great equaliser. Because we all die the same death. Mother Teresa dies the same death that Adolf Hitler dies. Kerry Packer dies the same death that the homeless person dies. Steve Jobs dies the same death that you and I will die. We all die the same death. We end up in the same place. The Bible sets up the problem this way. Verse 2. All of us share a common destiny. The righteous and the wicked. The good and the bad. The clean and the unclean. Those who offer sacrifices and those who don't. We all die. It doesn't matter how good or bad, rich or poor, powerful or weak we be, religious or non-religious, we all die the same death. As it is with the good, so with the sinful. As it is with those who take oaths, so with those who are afraid to take them. We all die the same death. Whether we choose to believe in God or choose not to believe in God, we all die the same death. So what's the point of being good, rich or successful anyway? That's the first problem. Maybe we'll say, well, maybe I can just invest into this life as much goodness and success as I can. Well, the second problem is this. Our life is so brief that good times have to end one day anyway. Every year our family has a family ski holiday. And every year my boys cannot wait till it's the ski holiday. So months out before the ski holiday, my boys are so excited. They go, oh, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. We're going skiing, we're going skiing, we're going skiing. I can't wait, it's going to be so good, I'm so excited. And I say to them, what are you so excited about? We do this every year. What's the big deal? And suddenly I realised for my 4-year-old boy, 1 year is a big deal. His conscious memory is probably in 2 years. So 1 year for him is 50% of his conscious lifetime. 1 year for him feels like 25 years feels like for me. But if you're like me, the older you get, the less and less 1 year feels. The years start going by quicker and quicker. So every year you're thinking, what, is Christmas time again? How did that happen? Every year you're saying, what, it's the end of the financial year? How did that happen? Every year it's council clean-up again? How did that happen? The years just zip by so quickly, and they go by so quickly, you never get done the things you thought you were going to get done this year. Every year it's like, oh, I still didn't take the music lessons I thought I would. Every year it's like, oh, we didn't get to invite our friend over like we thought we would. Every year it's like, oh, we didn't have a barbecue like we thought we would. Every year it's, oh, I still didn't get to clean the study like I thought I would. Because the years go by so quickly, you don't get done the things you thought you were going to get done. I turned 50 this year, and I cannot believe how quickly the 50 years have gone, which has got me really worried about how quicker the next 50 years are going to go. If they are going to be 50 years, our lifetime is so brief. Just last year, I went to a wedding, and as I'm at the wedding, suddenly it hit me. I thought, oh my goodness, I am a friend of the father whose daughter is getting married. I thought, oh my goodness, when did this happen? I have now become that guy who's a friend of the parents, not a friend of the couple getting married. So I've become that guy, you know, as the couple's getting married, like, why are we inviting this guy? The parents are saying, he's our friend. Do we have to invite him? Yes, we have to invite him. So you end up on that table with the friends of the parents, but you don't know the couple. I said, when did this happen? Because once upon a time, I was at a stage of life where every weekend I was going to 21st birthday parties. And then you hit the next stage of life where every weekend you're going to weddings of friends getting married. And now I've moved up to the next stage where on the weekends I'm going to weddings where I'm friends with the parents whose children are getting married. And I complained about this to someone and they said, yeah, but wait till you get to our stage in life. Now you're going to the funerals of your friends. You're turning up to bury your friends. You see, life just zips by so quickly you don't get done what you thought you were going to get done. Towards the end of my grandfather's life, he was in a nursing home in a wheelchair. So every year at Christmas time, we would order a taxi. They would pick him up from the nursing home and they would wheel him into the taxi and they would bring him to where we had our family Christmas dinner. He would come out, celebrate Christmas with us. But at the end of the dinner, we'd have to call the taxi would pick him up, we would wheel him into the taxi, we would say goodbye to him, and there was always this feeling, is that it? Is this the last Christmas with Grandpa? Because the Christmases will one day run out, and they will run out for all of us. One day the years will run out, the Christmases will run out, and our life is so short we never thought we would get done what we thought we were going to get done in this life. Verse 3, this is the evil in everything that happens under the sun. The same destiny, death, overtakes us all. For the living know they will die, but the dead know nothing. They have no further reward, and even their name is forgotten. Their love, their hate, their jealousy have long since vanished. Never again will they have a part in anything that happens under the sun. That's the problem of death. It robs our life of meaning, and our life is so short anyway. How can I have a rich, full, fulfilling life? That's the problem. So let's come to the second half of the talk, where we look at, well, how can I have an extraordinary life anyway? What does the Bible have to say? And here I suggest two things. Number one, it's all about the relationships. I lived in Chicago for 5 years, and in America, they just do everything bigger than how we would do things in Australia. So in Australia, we might have sports bars, but in America, they have this thing called ESPN Zone. And it's a sports bar that is 100 times bigger than how we would do sports bars. Just TV screens everywhere. And they have this mega huge screen right in the middle. And if you get there early enough, you can be lucky enough to be in a lounge chair in front of that mega huge screen. And we got there, and on the screen that night was this basketball game. And we saw a couple was in a double lounge chair in front of the screen. And there was a couple there, a guy and a lady, on a night out. Guy was so happy to be there. He was watching the basketball game. In one hand was a drink, in the other hand was a hamburger, and he was so happy to be there. But next to him was the lady. You could tell she'd gone to a lot of trouble for this night out. She was in a very nice dress, hair was done, makeup, and she sat there. She was so unimpressed, which I couldn't work out because it was a very good basketball game. But then I realised this is a tragedy. They're on a date night. He should be relating with her. He is so self-absorbed right now. He's ignoring her when really he should be relating, talking to her, whispering in her ear, maybe holding her hand. See, in the end, life isn't what we do. It's not what we have. It's not how we enjoy ourselves. It's who we're with at the time. That's how we have a rich, full, fulfilling life. It's actually about the relationships. This is Bronnie Ware. She's a palliative care nurse in the UK, and she has this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, where she lists the regrets that people express at the end of their life when they're dying. And one of the top 5 regrets of the dying is this: I should have stayed in touch with my friends. See, we become so self-absorbed in life, maybe chasing pleasures, but that by the end of our life we're alone, lonely, because that's when we discover too late that it's actually all about the relationships. This is Robert Waldinger from Harvard University, and in one of the most watched TED Talks of all time, he answers the question, or he tries to answer the question, what is a good life? And he quotes a Harvard study, which is astonishing in its breadth and depth. where in this Harvard study they traced the lives of 750 men over 75 years, and they tried to look at, well, what leads to a satisfying, rich, fulfilling, happy life. And they came up with the answer in the lives of these 750 men over 75 years, that it came down to this. It wasn't whether you had $1 million or not. It wasn't whether you were the CEO of a company or not. It wasn't whether you had paid off your house or not. It all came down to this: the quality of our relationships. Those people in quality relationships were happier, healthier, and even lived longer. So it's not what we do, it's not what we own, it's who we're with that leads to a quality of life. It comes down to relationships. And Robert Walding in his talk quotes approvingly of Mark Twain: "There isn't time, so brief is life, for bickerings and apologies. There is only time for loving, and even that is only for an instant." So we want a rich, full, fulfilling life. Concentrate on who we're with and our relationships. Which leads me to my second point then. We also need to enjoy life with God. If we're meant to enjoy relationships with our friends and family, then surely we're also meant to enjoy a relationship with God. Hugh Mackay, in his book, What Makes Us Tick, the 10 desires that drive us as humans, he says one of the desires that drive us as humans is the desire to be connected. The desire to be connected drives us. That's why we have a desire to be connected with nature. We need to get outdoors and explore nature. We all have this desire. We also have a desire to be connected with our friends and family. And most of all, we have a desire to be connected vertically, spiritually, with a God who loves us and makes us. We need to be connected. Again, it's not what we do, it's not what we own, it's whether we're connected or not. That leads to a rich, full, flourishing life. Every year we have our ski holiday. This is the obligatory ski family shot to show everyone, yes, it really did happen. And at the end of the ski holiday this year, I asked my oldest son, Toby, at the end there, who's 8, what did you love about skiing? Because he said, skiing was so good this year. So I asked him, well, what is it about skiing that you love? And I thought, being an 8-year-old boy, he was going to say something like, it's the speed, it's the thrill, it's the jumps. Instead, he said, I love it when we ski together as a family. So for him, it was about the relationships, the connections. And those of us who do skiing, we know skiing alone actually isn't that much fun. It's when we ski with friends and family, that's what makes skiing fun. It's the same with eating. Eating alone actually is a little bit empty and unfulfilling. But it's eating with friends and family that makes eating. Traveling alone is actually quite empty and unfulfilling. It's traveling with friends and family that makes traveling fun. Sophie Scott, who's a neuroscientist, in her TED Talk, What Makes Us Laugh, she said we're 20 times more likely to laugh at something if we're with someone we know and trust. See, what makes something funny isn't whether it's funny or not. It's whether we're with someone we enjoy being with. That's what makes something funny. So it comes down to connections again. It's not what we do, it's not what we own, it's who we're with. And most importantly, we need to be right with God. Verse 7. Go, have fun, eat your food with gladness, drink your wine with a joyful heart, have a rich, full, flourishing, happy life. How? Because God has already approved what you do. It all comes down to whether we're right with God, whether we have God's approval or not. And it's interesting, the Bible uses the word approval there, because Hugh Mackay, in his book, The Top 10 Desires That Drive Us as Humans, according to Hugh Mackay, the number one desire that drives us is we look for approval. Our number one desire is I want to be somebody, I want to be recognised, I need approval. This is what drives us in life. We want the approval of our parents, our friends, our partners, our workers, our employers, and cruelly in life often have to do something, gain something, earn and win approval. But with God, how do we get God's approval? Again, it's not what we do, it's not what we have, it's who we're with. Because according to the Bible, if we have Jesus, and Jesus is a gift from God to us, if we have Jesus in our life, we have God's approval. And so if we have Jesus, then we can enjoy life. Life will be rich, full, flourishing and happy because of who we're with, Jesus. And it's all about connections and relationships. Maybe I've shared with you this story before, but there was a weekend when my wife and I were cleaning the house. And I hate cleaning. There's something about cleaning that just sucks the energy out of me. It's negative energy. There's something about cleaning that just sucks the life, soul and spirit out of me, and so I'm just a shell of a person. And so while we're cleaning, I said to my wife, I've got a great idea. Great idea. How about you keep cleaning and I'll go out for a surf, and afterwards I'll come back and I'll take us out for a dinner to celebrate. And she gave me the "you can go if you want to" answer. Which to you single guys out there sounds like a yes answer, go if you want to. But you married guys know that no, that's a no answer. This guy's a yes answer. Go if you dare. And so I didn't go because I didn't dare. Because I knew no matter how fun the surf was, if I didn't have my wife's approval, it would be empty and unfulfilling. And it's the same with life. No matter how much happiness we chase, no matter what we own, what we do, if we don't have God's approval, life ends up being empty and unfulfilling. But if we have Jesus and we have God's approval, then our life, brief as it is, we can enjoy it for what it is, a gift from a good God for us to enjoy, and we can have a rich, full, flourishing, happy life.
Sam, we have some time now for Q&A. I just want you to gather your thoughts and get some nice, concise questions to ask Sam. One that came through earlier in the talk. Sam, how does having good relationships resolve the problem that we're going to die? The popular and the loner both die the same as the rich and the poor.
Yeah, so the question was, how does having good relationships solve the problem of death? So what I've actually given is like there's a two-part answer that the book of Ecclesiastes gives us. I've just given part one of the answer in chapter 9, but Ecclesiastes leaves us hanging on this problem and gives us a second part of the answer in chapter 12. And that is, there is a life to come. There's another chapter to come. So what I've given is one part of the answer, that if we have God's approval, in this brief life right now, I can enjoy what God has given me. But the second part of the answer comes in chapter 12 that says there is a life to come where God will right all wrongs. So it does matter how we live in this life. There will be a righting of justice and goodness. And it will matter that we had God's approval in this life as well as in the life to come.
And if someone wanted to hear about that second part of Ecclesiastes, where would they go to hear about that?
Where would they go? Yeah, well, I'm not sure about that. They could read chapter 12 themselves.
Are we talking about that next week? Is legacy? Or?
Oh, legacy? I can't remember. Well, come next week and you might get the second part answer. I'll slip it in now. It'll be a little addendum that doesn't quite fit. But why would we do chapter 12 next week? Okay. Now we have to deliver what we promised. Yes, it's not next week.
Any questions from the floor or comments on what Sam has said? Sam, one that's come through. What's wrong with being alone? Sometimes it's good, or maybe you've never travelled with my family.
What's wrong with being alone? Nothing's wrong with being alone in and of itself, but it is about life tensions and paradoxes. So we have actually this double tension as human beings, that there's an extroverted part of us where we're energized by being with people, but there's an introverted part of us where we're energized by being alone, and we need the two to go together. So the extroverted time needs to be balanced by introverted time. Also, yes, families are highly dysfunctional, and that's the whole point of the Bible. The Old Testament shows us how every family is dysfunctional. But somehow, the New Testament shows us a way we can redeem families. So that's something we can get into maybe a bit later. That requires a lot more unpacking. But what's interesting is there's, again, another tension, another paradox in the way we're wired as human beings. We are wired to be individuals because God has created every one of us to be unique in and of ourselves. So I need to be an individual to shine, to be respected, to have dignity and nobility. But God at the same time has made us relational. Even God himself is relational because the Christian God is Trinity, Father, Son and Spirit. So he's always interrelating. So because we're in God's image, we also need to be constantly interrelating. So it's good to be alone, but it's not good to be always alone. And I was just thinking about this the other day. If you ever see a bee on the lawn, in your backyard, by itself, just walking around, you know something's wrong. That bee, by itself, will die, because bees belong in a colony, and human beings are the same. Part of the way God has made us and wired us is, it's good for us to be sometimes alone, and Jesus often went alone by himself, but we're not meant to be always alone, and we're always alone, something's not quite right.
Sam, life is all about relationships, and that's all well and good, but I still have a mortgage to pay, kids to feed, bills to pay, etc. So it seems to only work for those with money. So isn't life all about relationships a bit simplistic and ideal?
Yes, so it's a bit simplistic to say it's all about relationships because I still have a house to pay off, bills, a job to fulfill. It's recognising what stage of life I'm in and what sort of relationships I'm trying to work on. So the Bible has this really interesting verse that says, if you're a single guy, you can devote yourself fully to certain aspects of work, and it talks about the work of the Lord. But it says, if you're a married guy, you can't now devote yourself fully to the work of the Lord because you now need to be devoted to your wife. So even the work of the Lord, which as Christians we will say, hey, that trumps everything. The Bible says, no, your marriage now trumps your work to the Lord. So somehow there is a priority in relationships. And I went to the Steve Biddulph seminar for parenting. He says now, you just have to adjust your expectations here. So I know, again, it sounds simplistic, but maybe we might have to adjust our expectations of, okay, I'm not going to own, I'm going to rent for the rest of my life, or I wanted this suburb, but now I'm in this suburb. And so we just have to adjust our expectations here, because in there we know what will make me happy at the end of my life is what I've invested here, and actually not what suburb I invested in.
Another chance for questions from the floor or any comments? Sam, what would you say to someone who has asked you, you didn't talk to them about Christianity, they said, actually, I think I'd rather die than follow what you're saying. What would you say in that situation?
Okay. I think I'd rather die than what you're saying. Ooh. All right, so God has given us a lot of good things in this life to enjoy. So what I might say is what the apostles used to say in the book of Acts to people who weren't particularly religious, who didn't go to church, and what they said to these people was, wow, look at the great life you've had, because God has actually sent you rain to make your crops grow, you eat, you have a house, you have a family. These are actually good gifts from God, and so if you've enjoyed the gift, you actually need to honour the giver. And so we're actually enjoying gifts from a God who loves us, who made us, and ultimately wants to save us. And at some stage we need to honour the giver, because right now we're dishonouring and shaming this guy. So that's part of what I want to say. And also, the Bible says there is a life to come. There's another chapter to come. So when we die, we don't just die. There is something after death. And in parenting, they often say children need to learn consequences to their actions. And so actions make sense when you understand the consequences. Why don't I want children playing on the road? Oh, because they're going to be hit by a car. Why don't I want them to draw on the wall? Because they're going to have to clean it up. So there are consequences to the action, and the punishment sort of fits the crime in that way. And if we're so self-absorbed in this life, God sort of grants us our wish in the next life. He lets us be just as self-absorbed in a place where there is no God, there is no goodness, there is no beauty, there is no truth. So everything we've enjoyed from God, he says, okay, you don't want me in your life, fine, you don't have to have me in the next life. So C.S. Lewis has this book called The Great Divorce, which talks about hell and the life after death in those sort of terms. People actually getting the life that they wanted, and they're so self-absorbed, and it's almost like that is the punishment in and of itself.
Coming from that, is it selfish to only focus on certain relationships like husband and wife, family, close friends?
Is it selfish? No, I don't think so, because again it comes down to priority relationships and stage of life as well. So the Bible, I think, has some verses that say, husbands, you need to look after your wives the same way you look after your own body. So there's a real priority in the way you look after your partner. It also has verses about how to honour your parents. And so seems to be a priority in our nearest relatives. And again, there's a stage of life, because we've gone through this stage of life. You know, we're at university, you have like 200 friends, you don't know who not to invite to your 21st. And then when you get married, you have about 100 friends. And then you get to this stage where you only have like 5 friends. That's because you want to invest all the time into your relationship with your wife. But now we have children, because of schooling and all that. Now suddenly our friends have exploded because we are friends with their friends' parents. So I think there are stages of life in how many people come into your circle and how much time you invest into that circle.
We've probably got time for one more question, so one more chance from the floor. Oh, there's one here. All right. Sam, what if I'm bereft of relationships? Is there any meaning in life?
What if I'm bereft? Well, in the end, through things out of our control, disease, divorce, and dysfunctional families, we are left alone. But the Bible says we're never totally alone, because we have the one that counts. The priority relationship is the one with God. God is our Father, and Jesus is our Saviour. And as long as we have them, I guess that is the priority, the number one priority relationship. And there's this verse in the Bible where Peter says to Jesus, a little bit anxiously, "We left everyone to follow you, Jesus. What happens to us now?" And Jesus reassures Peter, whoever leaves their father and mother behind to follow me, whoever leaves homes and families behind to follow me, they'll get 100 times in this life, not the life to come, but in this life, they get 100 times the family, the friends, and the homes in this lifetime. So somehow through Jesus, there's a common bond that connects us with other people who follow and love Jesus. So in that way, we've sort of increased our number of friends and family and homes through knowing Jesus.
Thanks for answering our questions. Thanks everyone for coming. We hope it was encouraging and thought-provoking. Come back next week to hear the final talk, where we're looking at extraordinary legacy. You might hear the second part of the answer that Sam was talking about earlier. Otherwise, please feel free to hang around